Are you getting paid royalties every time your music is used or played? If you're not, then you should be. So let's talk about what you need to do to set this up. Whenever your music gets played on the radio, used in a YouTube video, or used anywhere for that matter, you are entitled to receive royalties. However, you will only get them if you have certain things set up. And even if you've never been played on the radio, never had your music used in anything up until this point, you should still have these things in place and set up in case your music gets used in the future. Because if you don't, you will miss out on those royalties that you deserve and you are quite rightly owed, and you're just leaving money on the table. So let's go through in simple terms 4 things that you need to have in place for every release to make sure that you always earn the royalties that you're owed. And the first thing is signing up with a PRO, which stands for Performing Rights Organisation. Now, which PRO you sign up to is largely going to depend on where you live, which country you are in. Different countries have different PROs. So for example, if you're in the United States, you'll be signing up to ASCAP or BMI. If you're in Germany, you'll be signing up to GEMA. If you're in the UK, it's going to be PPL or PRS. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out which PRO is relevant to you in your country, and then you need to sign up and make an account. Now typically there'll be 2 different types of accounts. Sometimes they merge them into one, but you'll have a performer account. That's where you can earn performance royalties, for example if you perform on somebody else's release. But then you'll also have a rights holder account, and this is for music that you own the rights to. Usually you're going to want to make sure that you have both of those accounts set up. It can be a little bit of a faff to set this up sometimes, but once it's done and you have your account forever. And in the UK, whenever I've had to deal with PPL, they've always been really, really helpful to help and support with any problems that you come across in the setting up process. Now the second thing that you need is to be able to assign an ISRC code to your music. Now an ISRC code is a unique 12-character code that you will assign to every single song that you release. Each song will have its own unique ISRC code. And when you sign up to your PRO, they will give you what's called an ISRC stem. And this is the first 5 characters of your ISRC code. Those first 5 characters will always be the same. The other 7 characters of your ISRC code you will assign yourself. So every song that you release will always have that same 5-character ISRC stem, but then you will finish the ISRC code off for each of your releases yourself. You will assign the rest of the code yourself. Now, in theory, you could format your ISRC codes however you want. However, there is an industry standard when it comes to formatting ISRC codes, and I recommend that you just stick with that. So it's a 12-character code in total. The first 5 characters will be assigned to you by your PRO. The other 7 are what you will assign yourself for each individual song. So, for example, imagine that you're releasing a song in 2024. You'll have your 5-character ISRC stem, and then the next 2 digits will be the year, which is 24. The next 5 characters will then be the number of that release for the year. So for example, if this is your first release in 2024, your ISRC code will be the first 5 characters that's assigned by your PRO, 2400001. Your second release in 2024 will be 5 characters assigned by your PRO, 2400002. When we then get to a new year, so for example in 2025, you'll revert to 5-character ISRC stem 2500001. And you also need to remember to assign different ISRC codes for different versions of songs. So for example, if you have a clean version and an explicit version, you're going to need a separate ISRC code for those. If you have an instrumental version, that will need its own ISRC code. Number 3 is then making sure that you register every single release with your performing rights organisation. Whether it's a single, just an individual song, or whether you're putting a 5-track EP or an album out, you need to make sure that all of the songs are registered, all of your releases are registered with your PRO. If you're using platforms like DistroKid to release your music, these will offer the opportunity to assign an ISRC code for you, but you don't want that. You've already got your own through your PRO, so that's the one that you're going to use, and you're going to have everything registered with your PRO. Now the 4th thing you need to make sure you have for every single release is correct metadata. This is absolutely essential if you're going to be pitching your music for sync licensing opportunities, But even if you're not doing that, it is good practice to make sure all of your files, all of your masters have metadata in them. Now, when it comes to WAV files don't hold metadata. However, if you're releasing music on CD, then you can create a DDP master which will hold metadata, and it will have all of the WAV files that you will then burn to the CD. If you're sending music out to radio stations, to blogs, it might be the case that they ask for MP3s. Now, MP3s aren't ideal, they are lossy, but if you use high quality MP3s, then they're generally fine, and MP3s do hold metadata. So make sure that in the metadata of that MP3, you have the ISRC code, you have contact information, including your website if you've got one, an email address, a telephone number, and it's also good practice to include some information about who you sound like. So for example, in your metadata, you might have sounds like Ed Sheeran, sounds like Green Day, Blink-182. The reason that that's useful is because particularly if you send to radio stations or you send to music supervisors for sync, if they don't use your music right now, they will put it in their library, and they might need a song that sounds like Ed Sheeran for a particular pitch. Well, if you have that in the metadata, then it means that your song will come up if they search for that in their library, and it means that you are then more visible. If they then use your song, you're going to get paid royalties. Now, we talked about WAV files not being able to hold metadata just on the individual track, but AIFF files do, and they're also lossless. So this is just something to consider when you're printing and you're bouncing your masters. So if you do these 4 essential things, whenever you release music, you will always get the royalties that you are owed. Your PRO will track the use of your song anywhere in the world, and they will ensure that they collect the royalties on your behalf and pay them to you. Now, if you're releasing music in any capacity, if you're a singer-songwriter, you're in a band for instance, then obviously this is a great way to monetize your music and create an income stream as a musician. However, it's not the only way. There are many avenues to earn money from your music, and honestly, right now the artists that are doing this very successfully and earning really good money full-time with the music have multiple income streams and not just relying on 1, even 2 or 3 streams of income to sustain them. Now, if you're interested in learning more about all of this, I've created a free resource called the Music Monetization Checklist. This goes through all of the different ways that artists are making money from their music right now. Now, obviously, some of these will require you to have a fan base to create an income stream. However, there are many avenues and many opportunities that require absolutely no fan base at all. So no matter where you are in your career, even if you have just started, you've got 0 fan base starting from scratch, you can still monetize your music and make a good income if you do these things successfully. This checklist is completely free. The link is in the description below, so go and check it out.